The sun had barely crested the ridge of the Montana hills when Everett Cole, a grizzled, solitary rancher in his late 60s, stepped out of his weather-beaten cabin. His morning routine hadn't changed in 30 years, strong coffee, sturdy boots, and a quiet stroll to the stables to check on the horses. The silence of the morning was pierced only by the crunch of frost underfoot and the occasional whinny of a restless stallion. But this morning, something felt different. Everett had built a life on solitude. After his wife passed 2 decades earlier and his only daughter moved to New York, he found solace in the rhythm of ranch life and the dependable company of his animals. Especially Dakota, a chestnut gelding with a white blaze across his nose, who had been with him through wild winters, cattle drives, and thunderstorms that rattled the bones. But that morning, as Everett reached Dakota's stall, he froze. There were bruises. Deep, dark patches on Dakota's side, shoulder, and flank. Everett's heart pounded. He gently pressed his hand against the largest bruise, and Dakota flinched. "Who did this to you, boy?" he murmured, voice cracking. Dakota had always been calm, steady, unspooked by loud noises or sudden movements. Everett had trusted no one more, and Dakota, in return, seemed to understand the old man's quiet grief. He was more than a horse, he was family. Confused and rattled, Everett scoured the ranch for signs of predators, broken fences, or rough terrain that could have caused the injuries. But everything was intact. His ranch hand, Charlie, had been with him only 6 months, a young man from the city trying to find purpose under open skies. Everett had taught him how to treat horses like kin. Still, something wasn't right. That night, Everett couldn't sleep. He sat by the fire with an old photo album and a bottle of rye, haunted by the sight of those bruises. Memories of his late wife, who had been a veterinarian and fierce animal advocate, stirred inside him. She had always said, "The way someone treats an animal shows you who they really are." The next morning, Everett made a quiet decision. He installed an old trail camera near the stable, angled just so it could capture movement in and out. If something, or someone, was hurting his horse, he'd find out. 3 nights later, he got his answer. The footage showed Charlie, stumbling drunk, slamming the stable door open. He shouted at Dakota, tugged on the reins violently, and struck him with what looked like a plank of wood. Dakota reared and bucked, but Charlie came back again. Everett watched, fists clenched, stomach in knots. He thought about calling the sheriff. Or dragging the kid out by his collar and tossing him into the freezing dirt. But as he stared at the screen, he noticed something else. Charlie, after the violence, sat down in the hay, sobbing. Rocking back and forth. Talking to no one. He looked broken. The next morning, Everett confronted him. Charlie, pale and shaken, confessed. He'd been sober for years but had relapsed after a phone call the week before. His younger brother had overdosed in Ohio. Charlie had no one left. Grief turned to rage, and he took it out on the only thing nearby, Dakota. "I don't deserve to be here," he said, head bowed. "I'll pack my things." Everett was silent for a long while. Then he said something no one expected. "You're right. You don't deserve to stay here, unless you make it right." He gave Charlie a choice: leave now, or stay and earn back trust, by learning how to heal Dakota. They began small. Everett taught Charlie how to make salves with herbs his wife once grew. How to massage bruised muscles gently. How to talk to horses with your hands before your voice. Charlie resisted at first, ashamed and guarded. But something shifted. As Dakota slowly healed, so did Charlie. The town noticed. People who hadn't seen Everett in years began stopping by. Word spread that the old recluse had opened his ranch to a troubled young man. Kids started visiting to learn about horses. A local vet volunteered on weekends. The once silent ranch buzzed with new life. Months passed. Charlie stayed sober. He shared his story at the local high school, speaking to teens about addiction, grief, and second chances. Dakota returned to full strength, his coat shining under the spring sun. One summer evening, the townsfolk gathered for a barn concert hosted on Everett's property. Lanterns lit the path, laughter filled the air, and children rode Dakota bareback in circles as music drifted through the trees. Everett stood near the edge, heart full, eyes misty. A reporter from the county paper asked him why he gave Charlie a second chance. Everett looked out at the joy around him. "Because someone once gave me one," he said softly. "And because hurt people hurt others. But healed people, they heal the world." The story went viral. Emails poured in. Donations came for the ranch, allowing Everett to create a small therapy program for struggling youth, combining horses and healing. They called it Dakota's Light. From pain came purpose. From bruises, a breakthrough. From one act of compassion, a ripple that transformed a town. And somewhere in the wide, wild heart of Montana, a lonely rancher and his best horse stood as proof that even the deepest wounds can be healed when kindness leads the way.